the Amazonian cosmovision speaks about the concept of fuerza de vida, and this can translate very simply to life force. And this is a very crucial concept to traditional Amazonian medicine, fuerza de vida. Now, interestingly enough, this concept can be found in other systems of indigenous medicine, including Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. In Ayurveda, it's referred to as prana, and in traditional Amazonian medicine as chi. And in Ayurvedic medicine, prana is the elemental life-sustaining force, which is critical for the perpetuation of life. And in the Vedic cosmovision, prana flows and animates all aspects of creation, including the individual, which can be looked at as a microcosmic reflection of the universe itself, the universe being the macrocosm and the individual being the microcosm, a reflection of the universe. And that prana flows through all of creation. And so this is very, very similar here in Amazonia. They don't use the same language, but the concept is very, very similar. So in the Amazonian Cosmovisionary Healing system, Fuerza de Vida is what makes life possible. And it exists in humans, in animals, plants, even in aspects of nature such as the mountains, rivers, stones, air, clouds, the earth, even the celestial bodies. So it's thought that when a native person goes into the jungle and hunts or fishes or harvests, fruits or palms or whatever it is from the jungle, there's a direct communication happening with the natural world. And it's through this connection with nature that strengthens our life force. This is what the collective belief is. So by being in contact with nature, that contact is strengthening not only our connection to nature itself, but also our own life force. And just to kind of illustrate this concept a little bit, there's a tribe of natives in northeastern Peru. They come from an area of Amazonia that is close to between the border of Peru and Brazil. And this tribe is called Ashaninka. And it's told that when Ashaninkan warriors go to hunt, they will stalk their prey, and they hunt usually with bow and arrows or spears. And they'll stalk their prey, and when they are taking down the prey and they get close enough for the kill shot, and the prey, be it, if it's a deer or a wild pig or whatever it is, when it's laying on the ground, it's said that the warrior will get very close to the animal, close enough where they are about face to face, and put his nose next to the nose of the animal. And when the animal is expiring its last breath, the warrior inhales and takes the fuerza de vida, the life force of the animal, and incorporates that into his own life force, strengthening his life force. I think this is an interesting story because it demonstrates that fuerza de vida is not a fixed or static force, but rather something that is mutable and something that is transferable between life forms. It illustrates that there is a fluctuating hierarchy in the world of living beings, which is determined by the ability to maintain one's own fuerza de vida, as well as to be able to absorb life force from one's surroundings. So you can see this in the plant kingdom as well. For example, there is a family of plants, Amazonian trees, called Ranako, and the Ranako are members of the ficus family. They're medicinal, and most of the Ranako plants share vulnerary and antispasmodic properties. They're considered to be good for fixing bones and mending sore muscles. And this is a parasitical tree, and it will grow around a host tree, and it will strangle. Eventually, it will kill the host tree. And through this process, it nourishes and reinforces the Ranako's own growth and strength. And the Ranako can become very big after having basically consumed the tree that it started to grow around. So this is very interesting to be able to see how life force is interchangeable and how different sentient beings follow this rule. I have a teacher who talks about a theory called the universal law of consumption, which basically states that everything eats everything. And I like to call it the law of the jungle. And so within this law, it's considered part of the order that everything feeds on everything else. However, that what is being fed upon is only taken in the necessary quantity, so that a living being only takes or consumes exactly what is necessary for survival, not more than that. And this is what maintains harmony in nature. So when I think about this law, this universal law of consumption, I think about Amazonian shamanism and how in many ways Amazonian shamanism is based on a conscious predation on an energetic level, which is using awareness, stabilizing states of awareness while following this natural universal law of consumption. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later on when we introduce the concept of the dieta, which is when you work with plant medicines on a deep level to take the energy and the essence and the essential wisdom of that plant and incorporate it into your own. And then there's another example which in Amazonian shamanism there's an aspect of what is called brujeria, which is sorcery or witchcraft. And so this is unfortunately, this is quite common here in Amazonia to hear these types of, accounts where a brujo or a sorcerer, I don't say curandero, it's sort of opposite ends of the same thing. A curandero is somebody who has this knowledge and uses it to help and heal people, and a brujo is someone who has this knowledge and uses it for their own ends, or maybe for monetary gain, something like that. So in brujeria, the reason why I mention this now is that there is this understanding of the natural universal law of consumption, and within deeper states of altered consciousness that is brought on by the use of certain types of plants that are endemic here in Amazonia, these sorcerers can work extracting energy from other life forms, whether they are humans or sources of nature. So we'll get into this a little bit later on. The point is that we, at least the concept of the collective concept in Amazonian cosmovision is that we exist in a world, and in order to exist in this world, we share life force with other life forms. Not just seen, but also on more subtle, maybe unseen levels. So there really is a collective recognition that Força de Vida animates these more subtle levels of reality that also interact and intersect with our own. In Amazonian traditional medicine, contact between the individual and supernatural forces can sometimes result in maladies with very clearly defined physical symptoms. And we're going to discuss various types of illnesses that are common in Amazonia that are attributed directly to some kind of shock with these supernatural forces. So when I'm talking about these supernatural forces, there is a pantheon of Amazonian myths and legends that are filled with tales of all kinds of infraworldly creatures. So it's not uncommon at all to hear people speak about having contact with these creatures. And so, for example, when I talk about these creatures, there is what's called the sirenita, or the mermaid. So like I said, that we live in river country. These are river people. The people have a lot of contact with the water. And the mermaid is, it's something that we're very familiar with in Western culture too. It's this half fish, half female, half woman, and people have seen this animal or this creature and had interaction with it. And it's said that the creature, the sirenita, will call people and seduce them into the water. There's also the idea of a type of jungle demon called a chuyachaki. And same type of thing, people who walk very deep in the jungle, some people have talked about seeing the chuyachaki. And people have the same kind of idea about what he looks like. It's this small, kind of dark, hairy man creature. And same thing as the sirenita, the chuyachaki tries to lure people deeper, to go deeper into the jungle. And I've met people who've talked about getting lost in the jungle for some time and speak about having met the chuyachaki, and that the chuyachaki draws them into the jungle and makes them lose their way. So, which is something very, very scary, to get lost in the jungle, because there are parts that are so dense, and if you get off the trail, it's very difficult to try to navigate your way out, and can be absolutely maddening, very frightening. There's many types of these mythical creatures and local lore and legend that are surrounding them. So the point is that this is where the living mythology of Amazonia intersects with the traditional system of medicine. And when I say living mythology, it really is that. It's a living body of legend and lore, because still in 2011 you can very easily find people who will account their personal stories of being in the jungle, or being near the river, and having some kind of contact with these infraworldly creatures. So this contact with these subtle forces of the natural environment which sometimes results in occurrence of strange phenomena, it's often attributed to the cause of disease and disequilibrium here. And I would say that curanderismo and even shamanismo, or shamanism, has evolved out of the collective necessity to maintain a balance between the individual's interaction with nature as well as his interaction with more subtle interdimensional levels of reality. This is just an intrinsic part of the collective consciousness in Amazonia. And so I think this is why you can find historical and cultural references to various rites, rituals, ceremonies, where there is some kind of offering made on the behalf of an individual, or even on behalf of a community, to appease an aspect of the natural world, whether that is seen or unseen. And usually this responsibility is delegated to the shaman, whose role is functioning as a messenger or an intermediary who is responsible for maintaining the equilibrium between the worlds.